It's game time, we ain't playing with you. It's game time, it's game time, we ain't playing with you. That's how we ball for y'all.
What up, you rocky with Dubai. Thanks for joining for episode 106. Round of applause. Boy. We keep just going back and forth with the discussion, about the war. We're still in this war. It got kind of ugly over a couple of weeks. It's like it's a new thing that's coming out every day when it comes to this war. Like, we just gotta wait, find out what's gonna happen next, right? Because, throughout the weeks, you know, Donald Trump tried to respond. He tried to respond and say, hey, the way you attacked us, you're gonna pay. So they was talking about this big, gonna hit them hard. We're gonna make sure that, we retaliate. But then it looks like it just didn't happen. It didn't happen. I'm sure people are just tired. It's like we wanna trust. We wanna trust the decisions that they're making, and we don't wanna escalate it to the worst. I mean, because what they were talking, people like I said last time, they was talking about, destruction. It was gonna be very bad on our end, and a lot of things were gonna be destroyed. The power source was the number one thing that they were ready to hit, and truthfully, I mean, now the war is it's like it's gonna get even worse if we take it to that extent because there's a lot of rumors about the things that kind of affecting what they might retaliate to do. We do not want to go to the further extent killing and hurting people. It's one of the things he talked about, you know. But it was really hectic. It was hectic last week. Just saying, are they going to hit them? Are they going to hit them harder? Are they going to destroy everything they have? Is this what they said? This is the hardest they was ready to hit Iran. Was people ready for that? Nobody said they never will see this type of destruction ever in war. So then some people was kind of complaining. It was like, yo, what is about to happen is it a war crime? Because are you allowed to destroy their power source like that? Where it's going to affect the actual people who live in Iran? That has nothing to do with this war. I hate to say it. I mean, I personally never lived against and seeing this type of destruction that they were talking about. But luckily things calmed down. Things did calm down. You know, uh, back in the negotiation, back in discussing. But according to Donald Trump, he said they're not going to admit it. They're not going to admit it. But after hearing what they were going to do, what was going to come next, they said they're getting on the phone and trying to make a decision and it open up for dialogue so we can have a actual agreement. But that's what he had kind of said. Yeah. Where we at now?
For the very latest on what's going on in the Middle East, let's get right to Steve Harrigan. He's live for us in Tel Aviv right now. Steve.
John, Kuwait reporting attacks from Iran, drone attacks from the early morning hours. No casualties reported. Also confirmation now that Iran did try and attack 2 oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, causing damage to one of them, nearly missing the other, but perhaps causing a short spike in oil prices. In the meantime, President Trump has warned about a major series of attacks against Iran that could be coming. He also expressed frustration in negotiations with Iran, saying the leadership often says one thing and then ends up doing another. Here's President Trump.
I'm losing faith in them because they do lie and they do misrepresent. Well, the other day, the 5 missiles were shot. We're not been down, but we were in the midst of a negotiation. I mean, I'm waiting for Steve to call me. How's the negotiation going? And instead, I got a call from Pete that they just shot 5 missiles at one of our bases in Jordan.
It's clear that tensions in the region are rising in anticipation of potential heavy strikes ahead. A number of U.S. embassies warning American citizens either to return home or don't come to the region.
For the very latest.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, it's definitely if you're traveling and you're American in Iran, you should be worried. You should be worried about what is going on, and you definitely want to stay clear. But yeah, it's just funny. Even if you're having a discussion and you're how are you having a discussion and missiles are going back and forth? That's it's like, what are you negotiating? It's like, how do you negotiate? You're at the table and the person at the table sending a missile over to you. Like, you're not gonna want to negotiate with that person. You're gonna be like, all right, what? What are you doing? We here talking. This is the reason why we here. We could be doing something else. We ain't gotta be here while you bombing each other back and forth. That's not what we're here for. That's not what we want to happen. That's not what's next. That's not like so, just at the point where it's just a back and forth, they're in negotiation again. He called it off. He kind of got mad. He kind of got furious, and was like, all right, well, I'm about to retaliate. But then, came to his senses. They talked to his other allies, talked to everybody else, and he decided, you know what, I don't want to kill people. They don't want to kill people, and let's just go ahead and call this off. That's what it is.
Would I rather make a deal? I'm not looking to kill people because people die. A lot of people die, and we don't want that. So they asked us, Iran specifically, but the other 3 said I asked Saudi Arabia, the king. They said, the crown prince. I said, what would you rather do? Would you rather have us do this or not? And they said, we would much prefer a deal as opposed to an attack because you don't know where these attacks lead. I mean, will they be flooded with people pouring into their country at disaster? A lot of bad things could happen. Would I rather make a deal?
And he's talking about what other countries the bad things happen. Don't forget the retaliation, man. Don't forget 9/11. Well, I don't know. Can't say that excuse, but don't forget the power Iran has when it comes to suicide bombers. Don't forget how many people already is in America. Don't underestimate what the power that they can drum up. If you turn around and wipe out the power that is going to expect their families and friends, how they would love to retaliate in other sources, because there was the rumor about how they was FBI had put a statement out. Well, it kind of just gave out a statement and told us that they were maybe targeting our water system. He had a big thing in Minnesota, but Donald Trump kind of just he deflected that. He said he's got bad government over there, but the fact that it's saying several locations now that might be affected. So you say they have bad government. Does all the states that might be affected that it's gonna experience these things? Because they hit our water system. Forget about it. Forget about it. That's definitely going to be affected. If they can affect I don't want to give them the game plan, but it's like if that kind of happens, you got to think about how that's going to affect other people, and it's got to come back to square one. Like, where did this started? Why did we get involved? It's going to get even worse. So it's going to affect them more, but it's going to affect them. I would say 70%. Hey, but the fact that our 30% even might be affected in this, we innocent people don't have nothing to do with this. We don't want that to happen. We don't want our water supplies to be damaged in any states. So that was the reality. That's what they was talking about.
This morning, the FBI and EPA out with a warning to water and wastewater facilities, alerting them to a surge in cyber attacks. Companies in at least 7 states now reporting incidents to federal authorities. Some of the operations affected, according to the FBI, include flooding and loss of pressure, which could potentially allow untreated groundwater to seep into pipes. The warning comes amid a wide-scale cyber attack targeting more than 30 water treatment systems in Minnesota. Authorities have not yet identified who is responsible for the Minnesota attack, but sources tell us a number of officials suspect Iran-linked hackers may be involved. In one case, the hackers were able to actually shut down the flow of water from the well and water treatment plant in the tiny city of Bram, forcing officials to provide clean water to residents already stored in its water tower. In a statement, the city says it was informed that there were at least 4 other communities attacked with the same result.
So if that gets really a trend with them, that's how the next way they're gonna try to cyber attack us, then that's gonna be another problem. That's gonna be another problem on a problem that you don't want to deal with. You know, we already got the gas price situation going up, and he knows. He's like, yo, all these oil companies, they're profiting way too much. They said 12 times than what they actually made in 1 year. That's ridiculous. So the conversation is still about the straight to keep open. And believe it or not, the way that Iran is running it right now, yeah, it's open, but it's open to certain sources, and only certain sources have to basically check in. We have check-ins, they checking in now. They saying you have to register your ship to let get the okay to go through the strait. So they have their own organization that they running it, and it's not the way it was before, because they didn't have any control of that. They didn't even think of having any control of that. But so that's part of the big negotiation, because they said it's going to be another issue if they tax. If they put the form of taxing on us just to run through the strait and do shipments, everything's going to cost of everything. Supplies are going to go up. Oil's going to still go up. So they have to figure out a way in this negotiation to take back the strait, have it running like smoothly like it was before, still keep them happy. So, and it's all about money. It's all about money. If they can come to a good agreement, like I said before, if they can, the money that we had took before them, to release back to them, because it's looking like we're gonna have to pay to get out this war. It's gonna look like that's got to be the negotiations, because they're they're not coming to the table with anything that they didn't have before. So why would they want to negotiate? Only reason they negotiate because they don't want to destroy their country. And I feel like even if we destroy their country, it's still gonna affect us, and that's not what he wants on his hand. That's definitely not what he wants on his hands. So what he said, they're back in negotiation. They're back talking. That was his last comment. That was his last. That was his last statement.
Awaiting a potential U.S. deal with Iran on the Strait of Hormuz, as CENTCOM now says they have redirected 48 commercial vessels, disabled 2, and boarded 2 more as part of the Navy's blockade of Iranian ports. Let's bring in retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, former assistant to President Trump and American Security Co-Chair at the America First Policy Institute. General, good to have you back with us. So the president said that a deal with Iran in the Strait of Hormuz could be imminent. Here's how he put it. Listen here.
On the Strait of Hormuz, Alaska reporting that I'm open as soon as tomorrow.
Could happen tomorrow. And the next
Tomorrow.
a lot of progress has been made.
What?
And they called me and they said, "Please, let's go." They want to talk.
General, are you concerned? Do you have any doubts that if Iran were to agree to a deal to open up the Strait of Hormuz, they would honor it?
Yeah, John, thanks for having me. Good to be with you. Look, I don't trust the guys at all. So I don't think they would. They probably would honor it. And I think really the deal is between Oman and Iran as well. And just open up the strait, that's fine. The interesting part is what are they, or how are they going to do it? Are they going to charge tolls, sort of like Turkey does with the Bosporus Straits? And that just leads to a whole set of problems we haven't even talked about. But the biggest thing I would like us to get back to is the real reason this was started is because of the enriched uranium, and we didn't want them to become a nuclear power.
We are awaiting a
So, well, we gotta just sit tight. We gotta sit tight and hope we come to some type of agreement. because the next stage is definitely it's gotta be like it's like oh is this the you gotta be the I hate this to be the final warning and I hate this to be the final. It's like well we're tired of this hearing. Oh yeah, we're in negotiation. Iran said no, we ain't no negotiation. So it's like back and forth. But it has to come to an agreement. I mean, because the next stage is just it's definitely frightening. It's frightening for both sides. So and a lot of people are gonna lose their lives for no reason. And nobody wants to take it that far. Nobody none of them they know all the wars costing more money on both sides, and it's like who's funding their side? We know who's funding our side. We are. So it's like they're eventually gotta run out. Like they cannot go to war. They cannot go to battle, missile for missile with us. It's just not gonna happen. Um, but other allies around the country, they're gonna be affected because they're not gonna turn the US, they're gonna turn to to the whatever the closest allies for us. They're gonna keep hitting. And that's what they were doing before. So that's already hitting different bases already. So it's going to get worse for them because we're still in that supposedly that's still nuclear talk. So we don't want them to even launch any nuclear at our allies and cities and cause more destruction. So yeah, it's definitely it's just like play by ear. You play by ear because you know the next step. Next step is really blow up everything they have in their power source, boots on the ground. And they warned us. They said, "Don't even think about still putting that boots on the ground because we're ready for that too." So they're still ready to battle. Don't get it twisted. They're still ready to battle. It's just we don't want to take it to that point. And deep inside, Donald Trump don't want to take it there because elections right around the corner too. So you have the November elections and everything like that, and it's not going to look good. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good on their behalf, and they know that. So they want to keep things calm as possible. Don't want to go too crazy with the missiles because everybody's not happy about any of this war situation because nobody wanted to go to war, nobody agreed about war. They don't want a dollar affected in their pockets when they have nothing to do with it. And you can't be mad at them. You can't be mad at everybody having that feeling. And then some people just crazy and they're like, oh, let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this war and bomb everything back. No, it's not that simple. You're not thinking rationally. You're thinking might be older thinking. you know, what are you gonna leave for the next generation and everything? That's what you want them to pick up the pieces. No. So let's really think about what our future is for everybody, and that's what we gotta kind of slow things down, really negotiate, and see what it put in place. But they're like, it's the last straw. We say again, last straw. Let's say find out. We're gonna find out, but I hope not. I really don't want any of this to affect anything. But the other thing people was talking about, you know, this COVID vaccine, vaccine with the Dr. Fauci man. He's a joke. They said what uh Biden basically, gave him permission to just s- stay quiet, make all this money. He made millions off COVID-19. You know why this vaccine, why people was fighting to not get vaccinated. Some people were not against, were highly against it. I was definitely one of them. It didn't cause too much harm, but still got to think about people who were standing their ground and they lost their jobs and they were highly affected. And they were highly affected. Uh, just personally, when I talk about it, the job definitely forced you. Corporate world tried to force you to take the vaccine. So I waited to the last. Let me talk about the last. Going into meetings, meetings, coming in for meetings about this whole situation. then also be on emails and wondering when you gonna get vaccinated. And you tell them like, I don't know what's in that vaccination. I ain't trying to take it. They don't want to hear that. They're saying because it became a mandate. They mandated everybody to get vaccinated. So you had to get one. At least had to get one. And they was right there, get two. And I was like, I'm not doing two. You're bugging. Luckily they got me to do one. But there's people who had to, they definitely was working with the elderly and the elderly. They had to definitely get vaccinated. They had to go through all the procedures. A lot of people who was nurses and doctors, they kind of said they didn't want to get vaccinated. They lost their job. They right there on the spot. They just lost their job. So it affected millions of people. And then don't talk about the people who actually died taking this thing because the signs were there. Signs were there. I mean, once when the person took it on live TV and fainted and damn near passed out, he was like, "Oh yeah, no, that's God telling you. That's God telling you. Like, look what this is about to do. We ain't doing that." So it was definitely a big stand. Even with family. Like, I don't talk about that, but yeah, family didn't want to be around you unless you had to get vaccinated. But it's like forget all that. So you had to stand your ground, and it was definitely what it felt where you did take this vaccine and it killed millions of people. So you kind of drummed up your own vaccine that was killing people and you were profiting. They had different ways how they were profiting. He was making contests and, people to take the vaccines and to make more money and more money. So he was making millions of dollars while a million people were dying. So, and then he just had for them to just go ahead and put him on the stand because, he did get, uh, he did give him immunity to not do, not to testify and all that stuff. So they kind of gave him immunity for not going to jail and pardoned him for a bunch of stuff. And they pardoned other people on that was part of that too, so they don't get in trouble about creating all this BS and lying to us national TV, telling us that scaring the world and all that stuff. So for him to not answer any questions, it just shows how he's a puppet. For him to have that testimony and then yeah, okay, they're gonna bring you in to see if you want to slip up, but damn, you didn't even answer. They said, "What test is out? What's the color? What's this? What's that?" It was very simple questions that you could have easily just answered, but you were so nervous and so scared that you didn't even want to answer it. You was shaking when you was doing the testimony. I can't believe that you just did that to everybody and fooled everybody. And then Trump was Trump was like, "Yeah, I don't know who gave him permission." And you was part of him. You gave him, you gave him his right to basically be part and stay silent too. So everybody's guilty on both paths. But see that testimony? That was just insane. Insane.
The 5th, huh, Doc? Let's try something. What day of the week is it today?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color tie are you wearing?
Oh, hi.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
What color's the carpet in front of you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyer is sitting behind you now, shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. Honesty like taking the 5th, huh, Doc?
Didn't care. Was still didn't care. Didn't care one bit. So it just shows you. Sometimes you do have to stick with your gut. And if your gut's telling you don't take that, don't take that shit. You know what I'm saying? It was just nothing was convincing me. It was nothing convincing me. It was too soon. Any vaccine that they push so quickly, non-tested, too soon. You know, we still don't know what the outcome. We still don't know what the side effect is gonna be. And they forced us to take this bullshit. And that's exactly what it is. Oh, you know. So that just shows like it was about greed. Nothing about health. It was nothing about getting anybody better. It was just about greed. It was about making more money, and that's what they're in for. You know, a lot of medical. And that's what they want. They want you to do. They want it's a business at the end of the day. They want you to take their product. You know, it's just that's how they profit. Is why they keep getting rich. They keep getting more rich. So to see that, that was disgusting. And the fact that a lot of news not even caring to talk about it, that's even more disgusting. So it's like he's a monster. Yes, he should be behind bars, and the people who follow along should definitely, be reprimanded somehow too. So, but it's definitely tragedy to see that. Tragedy to see that, man. Tragedy. But what could you do? It was a tough time, and we definitely don't want to go back to that. But now we've learned our lesson. Learned our lesson. So then, hopefully, there's never another pandemic. But if there is, we know what's up now. We know how these people are. But so other lightning news, they had a they had a skit where they kept going back to Dave Chappelle about plead the fifth. And that's exactly what this damn Fauci did. He plead the fifth like it was nothing. He didn't care to say anything, you know.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anything you say, go ahead, ask me a question. Did you? I have a secret document that I think you need to say.
That'd be all, sir. Good afternoon. I got your sentence reduced to a minute, sir.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Terrible, man. Terrible. Another interesting thing that just happened yesterday. Well, I didn't know that they were. It said basically, I think that was Elon. Yeah, that was Elon ship, right? One of his ships basically just smashed into the moon. They said damn near created another crater. That's how hard it hit the moon. They said people, looking into the telescope to see the dust that comes up. I'm like, what? Why are y'all fucking with the moon? I mean, yes, I like I talked about it. I talked about people trying to go to the moon. I did people, they're trying to build and see what's going on in the moon, things like that, and Mars too. But to have it said to basically have a big ass, it was like a damn hole in the moon you could basically create. And you're hitting it so much. I'm like, yo, who are you? We don't know somebody on the moon. We don't know somebody was on the moon that day, or there's got to be something up there that's going on that we just don't know. People, people say he's a criminal. He's like he should be punished for just trying to destroy space or something like that. And then people still, needs the other half that don't even care. I mean, well, they don't care, but they don't even care to think space is real. People, yeah, I believe in space. I don't know. I see people investing all this money and they're not just doing it for the fun of it. No, they're doing it for a reason. Back to the discussion, there's galaxies on galaxies that we'll never discover and never see unless they have that type of different technologies to transport and transport back. So, but that was fun. That was interesting to see how they talked about SpaceX
booster rocket that was launched back in January of 2025 when they were sending some robotic missions to the moon. But then that booster rocket kind of was left in an orbit around Earth. Well, it's now been pulled towards the moon. And in fact, it's going to slam into the moon at about the same speed as a bullet fired from a rocket, about 5,400 miles per hour at about 2:34 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow morning. And when it does, when it hits the Earth, the moon, it is going to create a massive plume of dirt and dust exploding off of the lunar surface. And they think it could be as high as 60 miles above the moon's surface. That's why astronomers are so excited, right? They've got their telescopes really focused on it. They're going to take a lot of photographs. Is there anything in that dust cloud, in that plume, that will provide clues as to what is underneath the surface of the moon right there? Now, you know, we have had one other mission, at least, where they purposely slammed a rocket into the moon. That was when they found that, in fact, there was ice, water ice, at the South Pole. But that's about it in terms of trying to figure out what's below the initial layer of dust on the moon. Maybe this will provide clues just a year or two before we actually put humans back on the moon.
And that's what they're doing. They're trying to, I guess, they're trying to mess around and make room for something, or they probably send something up there. I don't know. You know, we don't know what the hell's going on in space, but I'm sure Elon and SpaceX, they're definitely know what's going on and what they're planning to do. So we'll pay attention. We'll keep seeing what next on the moon, if he's making room for his satellites or something. I don't know, you know, but it's their ships and only they know. You know, exactly. Only they know what's going exactly on. You know, let's see some sports topics. You know, I see Brunson. Brunson was definitely back in the headlines. You know, Jalen Brunson, about people kept talking about how, you know, he took that big pay cut. I was like 113 million. So, you know, a lot of NBA players are just kind of commenting on different podcasts, and you know, I heard Carmelo said, "Well, even that type of money, how would you even make that back off the court? You know, if you're gonna give up to that much pay cut, how would you make that back? You know, a lot of people don't even have, even who are greats who played the game, they didn't even get that opportunity to. He said they still be were playing now and still won't get the opportunity to make 113 million on the court. So that was definitely a big risk. It was definitely a big risk. I'm glad he did it, because there's no way we're not winning the championship if he takes that all those money and they don't have enough room to get these role players and have it just, you know, moving around and to have that type of chemistry that he brought people he had from, you know, his college days over. So hard, you know, and then just to have that whole camaraderie, you know, with the whole team, you know. So I'm glad he did. Glad he did. But a lot of people, you know, have their comment talking. You know, Green was going back and forth kind of with Hart, with Josh Hart. Just because, and Green, he makes a good point. He does definitely makes a good point where it's like, hey, you know, Steph Curry would not just took no pay cut. That's why. Uh, yeah, whatever. Yeah. So a lot of the teams they saying like they wouldn't take a lot of you know, pay cut on their behalf, because you know they figure it's the NBA. They have enough money. You know, they have enough money. So why would I take a pay cut? You know, and then they don't want it to be a thing. You know, they don't want the ownerships to be a thing, because you know now, you know, Anthony Towns is basically saying, you know, hey, if it costs to keep everybody together, I don't want nobody to leave. I'll take a pay cut. You know, some people just, I guess, they making us so much money that they're like, hey, you know, I rather want the championship, because at the end of the day, they want that feeling. They want to be the champions, and they know it's going to lead to more money on the back end. So if they give up, you know, 10 million a year, that's fine. But for Jalen Brunson to give up 113 million, that's just heroic. You know, it's heroic. He should have his own parade in New York City for that. But and then not even, and you betting did not even know you're gonna be at championship. But his thoughts to even said behind that, that was kind of just like, hey, you know, it is what it is. Whatever happened, happened.
$1 million ish is what you left on the table that you could have signed with the New York Knicks. Is $113 million worth it, knowing it's for a championship?
100% worth it. 100% worth it. I would. Oof. Even if we didn't achieve this, I feel like being able to do that and grind and go on a journey to try and achieve it. Would have been worth it as well, but this is definitely the cherry on top.
Oh, worked and it paid off. So, he definitely had the championship. So, we won the championship, the New York Knicks. So it was definitely worth it. But the conversation is like, is it worth paying? What now? They don't want that to be a trend. They don't want that to be a thing. But they kind of, what, 113 million, that's a crazy pay cut to do. But I don't think a lot of, of course, a lot of NBA players not even going to do that or even had a position to do that. But, hey, it's your choice. It actually paid off and it was worth it. So in his eyes. So, but that is a lot of discussion now from a lot of NBA players, and it's just like, nah, yeah, give me that money. Stop playing with me. Don't play with me like that. Um, but yeah. So would you do that pay cut? So you know, I don't. Yeah, I ain't got that type of money like that. you know, but I'm glad he made that decision. And now they're making that type of decision to keep the team. So we'll see. We'll see next year. We'll see next year. Then we talked about LeBron again. He only took like 1 or 2 million. So it's still people taking pay cuts, but that's a different number. It's a different number to pay cut. Great. But let's get into some music. So let's get into some music. So I'll start with Carly B. Carly B had a new track called Haha. Fire video for Dominicans out there. Looks like you're on a nice island. Uh, congratulations, just bouncing back after having a baby, to get your body right and get everything ready to go again. I'm sure she was ready to see, when people take a picture with you in the gym and things like that. But, she's back. She's back. So making music or probably had a song, wherever it is, but, ready to get back to work, so she's going viral in her videos, promoting it and wearing her outfits and looking good like always. So shout out to her. But the song is dope. It's the dope, catchy song. There's still like a summer vibe. Just talk her shit. That's what the ladies like and the ladies want to hear in the club probably. Just have that confidence music to them. So it's definitely a cool vibe to rock to. Definitely cool vibe. To check out. Start her single and everything. For the summer vibe. And she back out here again, I guess. She always, she say, hey, I can have multiple kids with the person, I still leave them. It don't matter. It don't even matter. So, we don't know if she would step on or not. And then she was also rumored to be with the other guy who played soccer. I forget his name. I don't know. But, hey, she's back outside, and then back outside with a good anthem. So, rocking with, so the ladies are rocking with that, playing that in the club. Yeah, so to check that out. Also, Beyonce, man, Beyonce. Morning Dew. Yeah, I gotta blush. I was like, damn, is this song, I don't care. I don't care if they say the song's not about me. In my mind, the song is a song not about me, but to hear Morning Dew, the way she said that starting off, I don't care. I played that maybe 50 times probably already. But I'm gonna talk a little more about it on the Patreon. I'm gonna go into detail about it, but I'm a fan out in the Patreon. But yeah, to see Beyonce and Jay-Z to have another track after coming off the Yankee Stadium, that's just incredible. And then this song is just fire. Hey, I don't care. For the anthem, it's upbeat, and then they slowed it down with the Isley brother, between the sheets was sampled, and they had the other sample. Like those way they mix that together, that gives you both worlds. You get that she calling the pop, but I hear R&B, I hear hip hop and R&B. It says no, I hear it all in there. So to give you that, to almost end the summer. Oh man, they wanted that in the beginning of the summer, but they right on track. Still right on track to definitely put that out. You know, and then they got the show in L.A. and Paris coming up. They do that. Oh my gosh, more treats they're giving the world. So tight that I definitely didn't get to see her on Blueprint. I wish you popped out on the Blueprint, but yeah, it's okay. I still enjoy the show, everything, but we want to see a video. Yes, we're gonna need to see the video for that. We need a video for that already. That's already in the record. That's already a hit. I feel like that's a hit. And then when I told you Jay-Z probably was cooking up, or just in that music mode. So to have him on there on a record, dope, 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 dope album. Dope project that she kind of just put out with the acoustics and the mixing and the remix and all that. So yeah, definitely go in detail. But that was a surprise. But I was surprised there. But yeah, Morning Dew. All right, that's what I like to hear. So definitely go check out that. That's inspiring. Uh, yeah, let's go a little rap. Bottle dropped the project. Well, Bottle. I was always a fan of Bottle too. So definitely for him to just get right to it. 11 tracks. I liked it. I like the whole project. Rocking with that. Yeah. But definitely, he got some good tracks on there too. I like you said he got back to I talked about peaceful. I like the music when people do storytelling, so he got back to storytelling. So I heard that in there. That was dope to hear. But yeah, there's a solid 11 tracks. He goes just showing who Vado is, still out here making music and still putting some music out. So yeah, definitely check out that. That was tough to chill to hear Vado. Not gonna lie, not gonna lie. Then I also got into some music. I mean some movies. Watched the movie on Netflix, and I talked about it quickly about I wanted to watch the 72 Hours, so I got around to watch 72 Hours with Kevin Hart and his new bunch of his crew. Definitely on Netflix. Definitely see why it's number one. I checked it out. I was part of that beat him, watching it early, but to see him, Cat Williams together, and then also Mike Epps to put him in there. They said they were probably working on something, so just to see a little bit of that. It's just funny how they had a scene of fighting, but but it's just to see them just yeah, like I don't know if they used it on camera and off camera how they kind of just mixed it up, but yeah, just to see them in the same room and acting together that was cool to see. Then have them fighting back and forth, and when when Kevin Hart turned into basically the cocaine dealer, get his name, but you know, so it was fun to see them two there, and then also just to see Mike Epps play as a detective. He was chasing them, so they more funny, more jokes, man. That was cool to see too. Put all their stuff behind them too, and then just have the new bunch, kind of just have that storyline of them. Basically, he's still playing his age and everything like that, but then they kind of caught him in the text message. Put just like, oh, who's this old guy in the text message? But he said, oh, you want to join in Miami? He just, he ended up paying for everything because he was, basically using it as like a campaign, and he kind of ran with that, and he kind of needed new ideas, so that looked at to be as a fresh bunch to get some new ideas, and he was kind of shooting a commercial while he was doing all these other stuff, put everything in the campaign, and it was just funny how the younger calling him Unc and kind of just it was just you got to go see it, man. You gotta watch it. It was just really, kind of relatable when you get older, and then trying to mingle with the younger folks, younger kids, and all that stuff. So it was hilarious. It was hilarious. They're fun, all fun and fun and games. So yeah, definitely 72 hours. I definitely recommend you check that out on Netflix. You know what I mean? Also, talking about series, check out the 50 Cent Fightland. I didn't think it was gonna be a UK vibe, but okay, we're UK, the UK. And it kind of have been their boxing, getting into it. So I'm starting to get into it. Watch the first episode. I'm gonna watch more and see what direction he goes in with this. He's 50 Cent is executive producer, and he's kind of putting his stamp on it, saying this is one thing that kind of caught his attention. He's big with boxing and he liked the boxing thing, so see how they kinda mix that with the boxing, the drugs, and, and the storyline and see how that goes, but so far so good, so, yeah, I'm definitely gonna keep checking that out, and I like what they're doing with that, and, always cool to see new, actors and get acquainted with them and then kinda just see how they act, so definitely gonna check out that. And he also talked about, he had a track with Tupac. I didn't really hear it, but I wanna hear it. They're gonna put it in the And Fightlander, they can put it in the soundtrack or how it is, but I want to hear the track with him and Tupac. Say he got a track with Tupac. Let's get it. I want to hear that. Let's get it going. I want to hear that right now. you know. But yeah, so it's cool to see that. But so we'll check. I keep checking that out. But let's get into some motivation. Motivation. I need a motivation. All right, so this one says sometimes the bravest thing you could do is keep going when you feel like giving up. Shoot, say the people in the back. The summer is dying down. The summer is about to be dying down. You got to get back to work, but even when you're working in the summer, so but you still got to keep going. Hey, you got to just keep going, and I guess that's just the moral of it. Just this bravery and just keep going when you feel like giving up. Everybody always feels like giving up, but hey, what's in it to give up? Why give up? Take a break. Hey, it's okay. Take a break. You want to take a break? You can take a break, but after that, keep going. Make sure you don't take too long of a break, or just keep going. Power through it. Power through it. Get it done. So get her done. Just trying to get her done. So I give you one more. Let's get one more. Keep pushing forward. You're designed for greatness, and you deserve it. So that's another thing. When you keep pushing forward, keep going. So you designed for greatness. I guess that's all characters, all the greats and legends. They just kept going, kept pushing it out, no matter what. They overcame what they had in front of them. So that's what is destined for you. And they say you deserve it. You deserve it. So yeah, you deserve it. All that stuff you deserve. You deserve. Yeah. So but that's what I got for everybody today. So if they've joined for episode 106, a round of applause. But yeah, just make sure you like, subscribe. Definitely like, subscribe. Everything I got right going on right now. And then just head right over there to the Patreon. I got there's a little something over there too. So but so again in the meantime, between time. Peace.
I love it. You guys are so great.